For a century, the ground beneath our feet trembled. It shook to the rhythm of blast furnaces and drop forges. It was the heartbeat of a titan. We called it the arsenal of democracy. We called it the industrial might of America. Else we thought it was a permanent fixture of the earth, something as solid as the mountains themselves. We were wrong. History is littered with the bones of empires that thought they would last forever. Rome, the Ottomans, the British, they all had their last days, a period that wasn't marked by explosions or war, but by a quiet, terrifying denial, a refusal to see that the foundation was cracking. Welcome to the last days of the American industrial empire. Visual. Cut to black and white footage of 1950s steel mills. Fire, molten metal, men working with intensity. Then, hard cut back to modern day silence. Weeds growing through concrete. Look at them now. The skeletons. The gravestones of steel and glass that stretch from Buffalo to Detroit. These aren't just buildings. They are tombs. Inside these walls, we forged the middle class. We built the skyline of the 20th century. But now, the doors are welded shut. The windows are staring out like hollow eyes. What happened? Did we run out of iron? Did we run out of coal? Did we run out of people willing to work? No. We ran out of something far more dangerous to lose. We ran out of time. But the end of an empire is rarely a single event. It is a process. It is a slow bleed. And to understand where we are going, we have to go back to the moment the clock started ticking down. The moment we stopped being builders, it started being something else entirely. 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, the golden illusion visual. Fast-paced montage of 1950s and 60s consumerism. Cars, refrigerators, suburbs, happy families. The music is upbeat but slightly distorted, like an old radio. To understand the fall, you have to understand the height. Because the higher you are, the harder the landing. There was a time, not so. Long ago, when the word American was synonymous with quality, if it was made in the USA, it was the best in the world. We didn't just make cars, we made machines that felt like tanks. We didn't just make steel. We made the spine of modern civilization. We were the masters of matter. We took raw earth and turned it into a lifestyle. We turned it into a superpower. The smoke from the stacks wasn't pollution. Back then, to some, it looked like prosperity. It was the smog of victory. But even at the peak, the cracks were forming. While the foremen were looking at the production numbers, the architects of the economy were looking at the bottom line. Visual, close up on a spreadsheet, a hand circling a number. The image transitions to a container ship. There's a secret that they don't teach in history books. Empires don't usually destroy themselves from the outside. They rot from the inside. And the rot began with a simple, seductive idea. The idea that making things was hard. But moving money was easy. We began to believe that we didn't need the dirt under our fingernails anymore. We told ourselves that we had evolved, that we were a post-industrial society. But what does that mean? Post-industrial, it sounds fancy, it sounds like the future. But look closer. To be post-industrial is to be post-production. It means we stopped making the things we use. Asterisk, visual, aerial shot of a massive port. Thousands of shipping containers stacked like Legos. Asterisk. Do you know what happens when an empire stops producing? It starts consuming. It becomes a parasite on the rest of the world. And for 40 years, we feasted. We bought cheap goods from across the ocean, and we paid with the promise of our future. We traded our factories for warehouses. We traded our wages for credit cards. We thought we were getting a deal. We thought we were the smartest people in the room. But the bill is coming due. And the currency we used to pay, is running out. 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock, the hollowing out asterisk visual. Time-lapse of a factory being demolished. Interest. Rising. Then, shots of a modern fulfillment center gray, lifeless, automated, asterisk. Let me take you to a place that exists in every state now. It's a place that feels familiar, yet wrong. It's the warehouse district. Drive past an old factory, and you feel the ghosts, the character, the history. Drive past a modern logistics center, and you feel nothing. It is a gray box. A temporary, holding pen for goods that pass through like water in a pipe. This is the new economy. We don't make the product. We don't own the product. We just move it. We are the truck drivers, the shelf stockers, the delivery drones of a global system we no longer control. This is what the last days look like. It isn't a sudden blackout. It is a slow dimming of the lights, visual interviews with older workers, their faces obscured in shadow. Audio of disappointment. I spoke to a man last week. He spent 30 years making machine parts, precision parts, the kind that hold airplanes together. He told me they used to say, as American as apple pie. Now, they don't even say where. It's made to just hope you don't look at the tag. He isn't angry anymore. He's just tired. That is the most dangerous thing for an empire. When the builders get too tired to build, and the children don't know how to hold the hammer, we have lost the institutional memory. The knowledge of how to bend steel, how to weave fabric, how to craft electronics. It takes generations to master these skills, and it only took one generation of neglect to lose them. Visual shots of empty downtown streets in small industrial towns, boards on windows, for sale signs that look faded and old, and look at the towns left behind. These aren't just economically depressed areas. These are the casualties of a war we didn't even know we were fighting. We surrendered our manufacturing base without firing a shot. We gave it away for cheaper televisions and quarterly stock bumps. We sold the engine of our car, too, by gas stop. But the suspense of this story isn't over, because something is happening in the silence, something unexpected. When the system fails, it creates a vacuum, and nature, and human nature, abhors a vacuum. 8 o'clock to 10:30, the fragile thread visual close-up of a complex circuit board. Then, a shot of a global supply chain map, lines glowing red and snapping. We are currently living in the most dangerous moment in our economic history. The last days are unstable. We are entirely dependent on a supply chain that stretches across oceans we no longer control. We rely on adversaries for the chips that run our banks, our hospitals, and our military. Think about that. The mightiest military in the history of the world runs on microchips made 10,000 miles away. It is a fragile thread, and it is fraying. Visual. Storm clouds gathering, lightning flashing over a power plant. What happens when the ships stop sailing? What happens when the next crisis hits, and we realize we don't have the factories to build the ventilators, the tanks, or the simple spare parts needed to keep the lights on? We are about to find out. The suspense you feel right now, that tension in your chest, that is the realization of how thin the ice really is. We are skating on a pond that used to be 10 feet thick of solid industrial ice. Now, it's a slurry of debt and imports, but ... music shifts. The deep drone lowers in pitch, turning into a steady, rhythmic beat, like a heartbeat. Asterisk. In every last day's scenario, there is a twist. There is a moment where the hero looks at the ruins and decides to fight back. Not to save the old empire that one is gone, but to build something new from the ashes. Is it too late? That is the question that haunts these factories. Can we relearn the skills we threw away? Can we find the will to get our hands dirty again? Or are we just tourists in our own country, walking through a museum of what we used to be? 10:30 to 12 o'clock, the clock strikes midnight visual. Slow motion shot of a single light turning on in a dark factory window. Silhouetted figure working at a bench. Sparks fly. The end of the American industrial empire is not a prophecy written in stone. It is a choice. Every day we choose convenience over resilience. We choose cheap over durable. We choose the illusion of wealth over the reality of production. But the machines are still here. The rust is just surface deep. Beneath it, the iron weights the last days are here. But the last days of one thing are always the first days of another. The sun is setting on the old empire. The sky is turning dark, but in the darkness, if you listen closely, you might hear a new sound. It's faint, it's distant, but it's there. It is the sound of a hammer hitting an anvil.